Missouri, 1866. Still smells like tobacco, sweat, and bad decisions. If you ever feel like your neighborhood is rough, try living here, fresh out of the Civil War, with no law, no order, and no reason not to shoot first. Today, we're tracking the rise and fall of Jesse James, the most infamous outlaw in American history. Some say he was a Southern patriot. Others say he was just a cold-blooded killer with good press. I've seen both sides. Stick around, because in this episode of Timelines and Tales, we're not just looking at what Jesse did. We're exploring why he became a legend and what that says about the American obsession with outlaws. Jesse Woodson James was born in 1847 in a border state torn between the Union and the Confederacy. Missouri wasn't just split. It was bleeding from both sides. And Jesse? He grew up in the crossfire. By age 15, Jesse joined Quantrill's Raiders, a Confederate guerrilla group known for brutality. They didn't fight on battlefields. They ambushed, torched, and executed. One raid killed over 150 civilians. Jesse, shaped by this savagery, learned that fame could ride alongside fear. His first taste of glory? Holding a gun and hearing people scream his name. Violence wasn't an exception. It was a routine, and that changed him. Jesse didn't come back from the war as a man looking for peace. He came back looking for control. Along with his brother Frank and former Confederate soldiers, Jesse formed the James Younger Gang. They didn't waste time. In 1866, they robbed a bank in Liberty, Missouri. A civilian was shot and killed. That was just the beginning. Over the next decade, they robbed banks, trains, and stagecoaches from Missouri to Minnesota. Their tactics were fast and brutal. Frank handled logistics. Jesse handled the headlines. Jesse wrote letters to newspapers, defending himself, painting the gang as defenders of the Southern cause, as if looting banks was just politics with bullets. But here's the twist. People bought it. Southern sympathizers, angry at Reconstruction, saw him as a folk hero. Poor farmers cheered him on. He became a symbol, not a man. He understood media before media understood itself. That, my friends, is dangerous. You see, Jesse James wasn't just robbing trains. He was robbing history and rewriting it in real time. And he had help. Enter John Newman Edwards, a Confederate sympathizer turned newspaper editor. He didn't just report Jesse's robberies. He romanticized them. Edwards cast Jesse as a noble Southern rebel, standing up against Reconstruction tyranny and greedy railroads. Did Jesse ask him to? Maybe. Did Jesse write his own letters to be published? Absolutely. That's where the myth bloomed. Not in the outlaw's pistol, but in the printing press. People in post-war Missouri wanted to believe Jesse was one of them, fighting for dignity, revenge, and Southern pride. The reality? He was lining his pockets while the press gave him a halo. In 1876, the gang made a critical mistake. They tried to rob a bank in Northfield, Minnesota. But unlike small Missouri towns, Northfield wasn't afraid. The gang was ambushed mid-robbery. It turned into a bloodbath. 2 gang members dead. Several wounded. Cole, Jim, and Bob Younger captured. Jesse and Frank barely escaped. This was more than a failed heist. It shattered their image. They were no longer invincible. Jesse spent the next 6 years in hiding, paranoid, constantly changing names and towns. By 1882, Jesse was surrounded by men he barely knew, including Robert Ford, a new recruit. The governor of Missouri, Thomas Crittenden, offered a $10,000 reward for Jesse, dead or alive. Ford saw his chance and took it. And just like that, Jesse James, 34 years old, was shot in the back of the head by a man he trusted. The myth ended with a betrayal. No final duel, no blaze of glory, just the echo of a single shot in a quiet house. Before we write the final word on Jesse James, let's look past the headlines and holsters. Let's look at the man. Jesse was married to his first cousin, Zerelda. They had 2 children. He sang hymns. He read the Bible. He took pride in being a family man. And yet, he murdered unarmed civilians, betrayed close friends, and lived under false names. This wasn't a case of dual identity. This was his identity, a blend of gentleness and brutality that never quite fit together. By the end, Jesse wasn't just hiding from the law. He was hiding from himself. Trust eroded, paranoia set in, and somewhere between those robberies and aliases, the man disappeared. Only the myth remained. Even in death, Jesse became larger than life. People didn't just mourn him, they turned him into a legend. Songs were written, stories exaggerated. Some even claimed he faked his death. But what's important isn't who Jesse James was. It's why we remember him. He was a product of a divided nation, raised in violence, made famous by media. He was both a symbol and a cautionary tale of how anger and charisma can be weaponized. Today, we still romanticize outlaws, we binge crime dramas, we idolize rebels. Jesse James was one of the first, but definitely not the last, to be remembered more for his myth than his crimes. And that, time travelers, is why I study history. Because legends lie, but time always tells the truth. I'll see you in the next timeline.